Is temptation a sin? We can look throughout the Bible at several different characters who have been tempted, but I think that there are two key temptations that we can talk about with two very different outcomes. We can look at the first temptation, which was the temptation of Adam and Eve in the garden, and we can also look at the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness. Now, when we look at the temptation of Jesus, it's easy to say, well, Jesus was God, so therefore he can't sin. But you also have to remember that Jesus was God made flesh. So what does that mean? It means that God made himself man. Therefore, he felt everything that we feel, from our emotions to the physical. He felt it all. And that's important to remember when talking about Jesus being tempted. So we see that when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, he didn't fall for those temptations, even though it would have been very desirable to do so. Because he wasn't just tempted with anything, but he was tempted with things that he would have wanted during this time in the wilderness. And not only was he tempted, but he was also taunted about it as well. But he overcame those temptations. When you read in Genesis chapter 4, he practiced exactly what God had told Cain. He told Cain that sin is crouching at the door, but you must master it. And this was right before Cain acted upon his sin. Now, when you look at the temptation in the garden, you see that Adam and Eve were tempted, and yet they fell into the temptation and acted upon it. But to get to the actual question of is temptation a sin, being tempted is not the sin. Because we see that when the serpent tempted Eve, God did not come down and cast judgment right then. But it wasn't until after they fell into the temptation and acted upon it. We struggle with temptation daily. We all struggle with different things. Being tempted is not the sin, but it's how you respond to it that could be.